black students, we need to know our history.
The black history we're being taught in public schools is repetitive.
As a black high school student, I want to learn more about my history in the school books.
We need to update our books.
As black American students, we deserve an accurate depiction of what black history truly is.
I want to see myself in these textbooks.
In the public school system, black history is vague.
Why don't the school books ever talk about the Freedmen's Bureau?
I created the workbook for the African American family. This book helps fill in the gaps that the school books don't. Purchase the workbook for the African American family on OurStoryPublications.com and use the Cash App $ Our Story Publications.
Richardson had an issue in July 27 for an arrest. Now, she was apparently arrested at the airport. So what you doing fighting at the airport? That's not smart. But the issue is, is there a double standard in domestic violence? You know, Wani, could you articulate that better than me? Like, it's almost as if, I don't want to sound misogynistic, but we see, you brought up the sexual issue, and it's that's true as well. But from a domestic violence standpoint, it seems, and I'm not the arbiter of truth, but it seems as though there's a double standard. Now, first, let me give a disclaimer. First and foremost, gentlemen, it's not okay to put your hands on a damn woman. That's some coward shit. But it seems like I hear a lot of stories of that reverse situation, which the police don't take it seriously. Is that okay? Are men just supposed to take physical abuse from women?
Well, I'll say this. Typically, men are bigger and stronger than women. But, things are changing. And some of these women are big and strong. And they want to be feminists. So I don't see why they should be treated any differently if they're punching people. Generally speaking, men can punch harder. They're larger. And so it was just typically thought that if there was to be a fight, that the man would have the advantage, okay?
Right.
We get that part. We're not stupid. However, some of these people are violent.
Right.
Like, they're just hostile. And we know that there is very high domestic violence among sexual deviants. And lesbians will just say, she's gay, and for some reason she's with a man. I know the reason. But that violence is still there, and the deviancy is still there. And that's just basically, you're going to have that. You're going to have instability with somebody like that more than the average person. And so she can't control herself in an airport. I knew she had bad judgment when she smoked weed. No, weed isn't a big deal, but it really is when you know you're going to be drug tested.
Right.
It's a really big deal. And she has the money and to get something other than weed, something in her system to calm her down after her mother died, other than something that would be considered illegal for what she's doing. So she is on she likes to sabotage herself, number one.
It may be a deeper issue.
Yeah, she likes to sabotage, and I get it. She's on a sabotage kick because these two things that she did were not necessary. It is definitely not necessary to rough somebody up, push them upside the wall at the airport. What on earth could that person have been doing that's going to make you want to get federal charges? There's not enough anything that he could have said. It doesn't make any sense. So I know she's in a self-sabotage mentality.
Yeah, that's very sad, but we see it in our communities commonly. I don't know enough about Sha'Carri Richardson's background, but I'm curious, did she come from humble beginnings? Because you see that when people from humble beginnings make it big, there's an unconscious, and me and my students today talked about the unconscious mind. There's a subconscious guilt there. So I'm wondering, is she dealing with that? Because those are poor choices to fight at the airport. You know, when you have so much going for you, it's actually kind of sad. But I have a question, Wani. Why the anecdotal evidence and some statistics show that domestic violence is higher amongst same-sex relations amongst women? Why is that? That doesn't make sense to me.
Because they're unstable.
Tell me more.
They're not stable. Because I've never seen a lesbian that didn't have children.
Oh.
Well, how did they get those? I don't believe that a lot of the people are lesbians. They've just, there's some underlying reason why they're acting out like that. But one of the things that I really didn't like about what Sha'Carri did, because I said, okay, whatever, she's violent and makes bad choices. But when she was being interviewed, she said, I could show you pictures of him beating me up. Really? Now you're going to throw his career under the bus? First of all, she didn't even get in trouble for that financially. Nobody withdrew their sponsorship so far. But if a man would have beat her ass up at the airport, he would have lost his. He would have lost his, whatever he had. He would have lost it. So she made sure that everybody knew that he beat her up, so she says. She just happens to have a video of him beating her up. What is that all about? I don't even believe that.
Well, that right there, what you just said, Wani, is evidence of the double standard. If it was a male doing that to a female, he would have lost all his endorsements. You know what I'm saying? Why didn't she receive endorsements for domestic abuse with her significant other, given the fact he's a male? Where is that double standard coming from? Now, I know the law treats women differently and men differently in child custody cases and in certain divorce situations. But with domestic violence, it seems like violence is violence. I learned in law school that, assault is assault. Like I don't recall in criminal law 1 and 2 there being any differentiation between assault and battery. It's just, it happens, right? It's did defendant make contact with, actually it's a little deeper than that. What I was taught is there are two elements to a crime: mens rea and actus reus. I like those big words they teach you. Mens rea means guilty mind. Actus reus means guilty act. And according to my law professor years ago, he said mens rea and actus reus needs to be married. So what that means is if you have a guilty mind, you can think about hitting somebody all day. And if you don't hit them, a crime wasn't committed. And the reverse, if you don't have a guilty mind, according to my law professor, this is not, this is just my pro se instruction from a professor. But if you have actus reus, an act without a guilty mind, well, that's called a mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to elbow somebody in the face because you hate them or you're mad at them. But if you turn around and reach for your wallet and your elbow hits them in the face, is that a crime? According to my law professor, no, it's not. The reason why I brought up that long diatribe is where does the differentiation come from when they go to court or the police come? If it's a guilty act and a guilty mind, that's a crime, and it should be treated equally across the board, not right?
It should be, but there's a lot of disparities in law.
What are your thoughts, Kush?
I was sitting here listening to Wani, and I had not been able to look at the interview that Sha'Carri did, but just quickly trying to find her apology statement, because I did know that she had an apology statement or whatever. she did a video, but she also had like a statement, and the statement was, I apologize to Christian. He came into my life and gave me more than a relationship, but a greater understanding of unconditional love from what I've experienced in my past. Due to my past trauma and pain, I was blind and blocked off to not only receive it, but give it. I love him, and to him, I can't apologize enough. My apologize should be just as loud as my actions, honestly, louder. To Christian, I love you, and I am so sorry. Now, my only thing to this, and listening to what Wani said, as far as the interview that she did, and saying, well, I can show you videos of where he beat me up. I watched the video that she did with her apology, separate from what I just read. And she's saying, you know, I'm being accountable and I'm going to get the help that I need, you know, to be, you know, whatever type of person, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But a part of accountability is not shifting blame. It's not projecting. It's not throwing off to the other person. Okay, if he beat your ass, where are the police reports? Don't tell me that you got videos. If it was all of that, produce the police reports. You know, why are you still with a person who's abusing you? Some things to me look like it could be manipulation, where a person says one thing, but they do another. So publicly, yes, I'll apologize. Publicly, I will, what the young people say, I will love bomb you. Or in this case, I will apologize bomb you. I'll tell you that I am so sorry, so sorry, so sorry. But also, I will project. Also, I'll sit here and, you know, let people notice I'll dry snitch. I'll tell people you was beating my ass too. That to me doesn't sound like accountability. And so I don't know how closely I will follow this, but I do know that when Sha'Carri does certain things, like with the whole marijuana situation and whatever, and she said, okay, I'll be accountable, you know, I'll change my ways, whatever the case may be. Yeah, we saw a different type of Sha'Carri come out after that whole situation. We'll see if the same thing happens here. I hope that this is not a case of manipulation, that this is not a case of public facing. I look like I'm doing better, but behind closed doors, this man is being verbally abused, physically abused. Because I think that's another thing too. Men experience a lot of verbal abuse. People, period, experience verbal abuse. And I think people dismiss verbal abuse as abuse. But it happens more often than not. And 9 times out of 10, before somebody starts putting hands on you, they will start off jokingly saying things that that should be unacceptable to say. And they'll start it off as a joke. They'll see if you accept it. And if you accept the joke, well, then I'll start saying it seriously. And then after I start saying things seriously, then things will escalate. So, as I said, it should not be acceptable on either side of the aisle, whether it's males to females or females to males. It shouldn't be accepted. But in my observation, I think that males accept and tolerate these things in silence. Because, as you said earlier, when somebody says, oh, you know, this woman doesn't treat me well, people sit and go, but you're a man. And I don't really know what that means, that because you're not being treated well, men should expect to not be treated well. To me, that's what that makes it seem like, is that if a woman is verbally abusive, physically abusive, but you're a man, as if that means he should accept it, take it, whatever, until he can. I don't know what that means. I just know that if it were a woman, everybody would be saying, ooh, girl, you need to leave. So with Christian, whatever his name is, whatever his last name is, I just hope that I don't have to sing Eve, Love is Blind for him. That's all I'm saying. I hope the brother recognizes his worth, and that's for any man or woman. Hope you recognize your worth so I don't have to sing Love is Blind for you.
Yeah, his last name's Coleman. And to those of you, we kind of jump right in the middle and just assume that y'all know what we're talking about. What we're talking about is an event that happened at the airport where there were an arresting officer. Basically, according to New York Times, she was checked into South Correctional Entity after repeatedly shoving Coleman during a heated argument as they went through TSA security. That was a poor choice to fight right next to TSA. Well, according to New York Times, the arresting officer witnessed Richardson shove Coleman multiple times as Coleman walked away from Richardson. So he did walk away. And it says footage was caught on the security camera, and it gave them probable cause. Well, the interesting thing is Coleman did not want to press charges on her. So I'm not sure, he's showing a history of not being violent, or maybe, if he was allegedly violent, being in public kind of changes some people's decision-making machine. But that's the point of me bringing this up is earlier, as Wani was talking, I thought about past trauma. And I did a little digging and found out that it is, Wani, this is, in my opinion, this appears to be linked to past trauma, because if you look at her history, it says, quote, Sha'Carri Richardson was born in Dallas, Texas, and she was raised by her grandmother and aunt after being abandoned from her mother. There it is, right there. Childhood abandonment can cause a lot of psychoses. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, as a psychiatrist, Dr. Welsing said that a lot of her clients that had the worst pathologies were abandoned by their parents. Just imagine what childhood abandonment by your mom would do to you. And I'm not caping for Sha'Carri, but I have a better understanding of that pent-up anger because, the caretaker that was supposed to nurture her, according to AI.
What about the grandmother and the aunt? They're just chopped liver.
Well, yeah, no. I know a lot. My aunt kind of raised me, but that childhood abandonment causes a lot. I know a handful of people who were abandoned by their children, by their mother and their father, and put into foster care. And every last one of them, except for one guy, has a criminal record. And I can't.
No, I get the foster care, but I don't get being a complete disaster area if a family member adopts you, unless the family member is abusive.
So if I can say this, because me and my sister, we talk about this all the time. Especially I'll say for the Zennials, latchkey kids. I feel like our parent generation were neglectful and abandoned, in my opinion.
Totally.
Many of us, our grandparents were the people who were predominantly raising us, aunts, uncles, whatever. And I think that the issue with that type of abandonment is when your parents aren't deceased, they're still alive. Right. And when you become successful, they come back as if, hey, big head. And it's like, I beg your pardon. And so you don't know where to put that anger, because some people do try to do the right thing because it is their parent or parents. But at the same time, you are resentful of the fact that this person, for whatever reason, left you to whatever devices. And some people weren't even raised by relatives. Some people were left just on their own to fend for themselves. So some people, their anger, even though they do have relatives and family who were there, that abandoning parent is still alive, is still around. You still see them. And regardless of your success, sometimes a kid is growing up and your parent that abandoned you doesn't show up to your graduations. They don't show up to your track meets. They don't show up to your basketball games. But once you become successful and the NFL is drafting you, I need to get out of jail to help my son practice with the NFL. And again, I'm just using it as an example. I don't know people's personal situations. Some people can be resentful and just not forgiving.
Well,
or it's hard to forgive.
That sense of worth. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talks about that too. She calls it lap time. And Dr. Welsing linked. So lap time, is when you have, your 0 to 5, going back to Wani's point earlier, previous point, 0 to 5, you need to, and if I should quote on Dr. Welsing, she said a child needs to be held until it can't take it no more. You have to hold them. You have to let them know that they are loved. And Dr. Welsing said in her studies that a lot of the kids that were on drugs and turned to prostitution did not have that 0 to 5 lap time. So what I'm trying to say is your sense of, a lot of people, now there are exceptions all across the board, but in general, a child's sense of worth comes from the sense of value that's superimposed on the child by particularly the mother, but the father as well. And if you have, like Kush said, a mother who's supposed to nurture you and give you that lap time, who abandon you, there's a void there. Well, in simple terms, what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is there's a question in the back of your unconscious mind that if my own mama didn't want me, am I worthy? And that goes both ways. And that's why I'm glad we picked Sha'Carri to talk about tonight, because she's a perfect study right out the psychology books of it going both ways. What do I mean by both ways? If deep in the back of your mind, you wonder, am I worth it? Am I worthless? Do I have value? A lot of times people, certain personalities will go above and beyond to prove their worth, whether it's through music or in her case, through track, right? But that question is still there, that maybe I'm not worth it. If my own mama didn't want me, then maybe I'm not worth it.
So let me ask a question. Because my family has a lot of inter-family adoptions, you could say. My grandmother raised all of her younger sister's children because she was a bootlegging, a bootlegger and a street lady or something. She liked to be in the streets. But she had a husband, so I don't even know what the hell she was doing. But whatever, she dropped all of her children off at my grandmother's house. But they did have hostilities.
Right.
That their mother abandoned them, even though she wasn't worth wanting to be around. Like, nobody would want her around because she was doing her thing. She wasn't good for children. But I wonder, it seems like it's focused on the mother, right? Do they act like this over their father?
Well, boys do. It's very fascinating. A lot of boys act out when you've heard the age-old trope that his father wasn't around. Boys need that validation in general from dad to feel a sense of worth, and it leaves a hole. And Dr. Welsing said, and I'm paraphrasing her, I don't have the ISIS papers with me, but Dr. Welsing basically says that hole, that need for validation, needs to get filled with something. You're looking for that lap time, and you can fill it with drugs and alcohol. That's where a lot of substance abuse comes from. Even though you may not be aware of it, like I was telling my students today, your subconscious mind records everything. Things you think you didn't see, it records. Experiences that you think you should have had, that you buried back in the annals of your mind, are there. So with boys, Wani, that hole can be filled with drugs and substance abuse, sex as a drug, or in a lot of cases, it turns into anger, which, boys act out. A lot of times you see boys become ultra aggressive and ultra violent. And that's not so much about, the age-old trope of the bully. It's not about violence. It's about, am I a real dude? Because, my dad wasn't there, so maybe he abandoned me because I wasn't a real dude. You can mess a child up in that 0 to 5.
You can. I really think it's focused on the mother, though, because some of the people that I've known that were raised by the neighborhood or random, people on the block or by their grandparents, they seemed, I'm speaking about guys right now, they're focused on their mother. Like the hostility is toward the mother. Like she's not supposed to, which is true. Your mother is not supposed to, she's supposed to be your mother. A mother is a very specific thing with respect to human beings, and they're supposed to act a certain way, just like a crocodile mother is supposed to lay eggs and jet out, and other mothers are supposed to nurture you until you get to be a certain age. The human mother is supposed to be around, so they're going against nature just to not be around. And it hurts on every conceivable level. But I always felt like it was better to at least have a grandmother or an aunt or an interfamily adoption rather than go to foster care. So when I hear people that got adopted by their grandmothers and aunts, I don't even really think that's a big deal, but I see that it is still a big deal.
I'll say this about possibly, we always start at 0 to 5 at birth, but imagine being with somebody like you are with a person 9 months of your life and 9 months of theirs. 9 months is a big chunk of a year to be with somebody. You're with somebody for 9 months. You and this person are always together. You're listening to this person's heartbeat. You are consuming the same things they consume, whether it's food, whether it's drink, whether it's drugs, whether it's whatever that person consumes, music, TV, language, all of these things. You're with somebody for 9 months. And then after birth, like you said, there's that 0 to 5. So once we have the live birth, we now start that clock at 0 to 5. And at some point, this person that you've been with, none of us can recall what it was like in the womb. But the reality is, this is somebody that we've been with even before we were born. 9 months out of a year is a long time. And that's a big chunk of a year to be with somebody all day, every day. And this person is like, yeah, this person is a part of me, but I can't be bothered. This is just overwhelming. It's just too much. And possibly it's hard to fathom how your own child could be too much, how they can be overwhelming. Now, there are psychological things that go with childbirth and having a child and having a baby and raising a child. And if you're too young or you're ill-prepared, not financially prepared, from a child's perspective, they're not taking all those things into account. Like you said about your cousins and their mother being the lady of the night and being a bootlegger. None of those things matter to a child. No child cares if their mother's a prostitute. Now, what only matters if their mother is now tricking them or whatever the case. Now, then it might matter. But if the mother just keeping her business to her business, most kids don't care if their mother's on drugs. I know people that were like, I'll go sell drugs so that I can be the person to give my mother her drugs, because I don't want her to get drugs from somebody she don't know. Like, this is the thought process of children who have mothers and fathers who are addicts, abandoning, neglectful. The children will do whatever it takes to be in that parent's life. I know parents that have stolen from their children, and the children are like, it just is what it is. They want their parents, and other people don't fill that void for them in that way. Even if they do have a level of appreciation for those other people, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, whomever, like I said, there's still, I believe, for most people, there's always going to be some level of resentment, whether it's the neglect part, whether it's you as a child having to be your parent's parent. That's another issue. Like, this goes down so many different rabbit holes. Probably have to do another space on that.
Well, looking at things from a psychological standpoint, I studied psychology in grad school, educational psychology. I said that Shikari is a very textbook case of what happens when a mother abandons their child. I'm about to prove it to you. So if you look at the symptoms, and let me be clear, I'm not a practicing psychologist. I just studied it in grad school. I'm not licensed, so I'm just speculating. But the symptoms of casebook symptoms of maternal abandonment, I'm going to list them out from a behavioralist standpoint. Number one, low self-esteem and self-worth. Let's stop right there. Now, looking at Shikari, you wouldn't think she had low self-esteem because she's a rock star on the track, right? But self-esteem is a strange thing because, like I said earlier, you can be in those type of situations. You can be stuck in a situation where you're looking at yourself, or what Michael Jackson called a man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror, and you're saying, "No, I am worth it." So you get stuck in a situation of trying to prove to yourself that you're worth it. And that's almost like a drug. You build a tolerance to it. So some personalities like Shikari go above and beyond to prove to themselves that they're worth it, all the way to an Olympic gold medal. Number two is attachment disorders. According to the text, abandonment can disrupt the development of secure attachment styles, leading in difficulties forming healthy and trusting relationships in adulthood. So you don't trust anybody. You know, your mom leaves you. You think everybody's going to leave you. Anxiety and depression, fear of abandonment, and check this one out: difficulty regulating emotions. Now, what we just discovered momentarily ago is she got in a fight at a airport checkpoint. That's like the last place you want to get in a fight, right? But according to the text, quote, children who have experienced abandonment may struggle to manage their emotions, leading to mood swings, emotional reactivity, and difficulty coping with stress. So her boyfriend could have said something at the airport, and whereas a normal, and I'm, no disrespect to our sister, but whereas a person who had had that lap time that Dr. Wilson talked about could regulate that in their mind and say, you know what, I'm going to get his ass when we get in the car. Just wait, or like my dad used to say, just wait till we get home. It's quick emotional reactivity. Another one, relationship problems. Individuals who experience abandonment may struggle with intimacy, clinginess, or avoidance of relationships. It also, another behavioralist standpoint, is risky behaviors. That's an interesting one. So mom abandoning you from that 0 to 5 may lead to risky behaviors. According to the text, some individuals may engage in risky behaviors as a way to cope with the pain of abandonment or to seek attention and validation. There it is. Trying to get a prize, trying to get recognition. And the other one I wanted to bring up, it's a bunch of them, but these jump out at me. Check this out, Wani. One of the main effects of maternal abandonment are self-sabotaging behaviors. There it is. According to the text, individuals may unconsciously, you're not even aware of it, unconsciously sabotage their own success or happiness in relationships in other areas of life. Now, the text don't talk about this, but the self-sabotaging behaviors are really tricky because, like the text said, you're unconsciously doing it. So I know y'all might ask, why are you unconsciously doing it? You're unconsciously doing it because deep down you think that you're not worth it, and you would rather reject yourself or put yourself in a position where you fail than let somebody else reject you. So it's actually really sad.
I just wanted to say this is the reason why I'm not going to pay any attention to her anymore. I'm going to root for her if she runs for the United States of America, but she really should have done better in the Olympics than she did. And she didn't do as well because of this bullshit right here. That's not Black American behavior. You have to have a strong mind and represent in the Olympics. We don't want to hear about your joints you had to smoke and your boyfriend you had to beat up or whatever your trip is, and your girlfriends. I don't give a damn. Shut up. Start by shutting the fuck up. Stop telling people what you're doing. That's number one. I don't care who you're dating. I don't care which girls you want to kiss. Just run and shut up. Now, here's some reason that I don't really care for her. She's always blaming the other people for her bad behavior. So she says she was calling him a coward when the officer was talking to her. This is the position that Christian puts me into, she said.
Wow.
To the police in Seattle airport, according to the body cam footage, because he's a coward and I don't want anything to do with him from this point forward. My name is Sha'Carri Richardson. I have no problem letting you know who I am. Having put my hands on him, we had an argument. I will be honest about that. Didn't put your hands on him, but you beat him up, okay? She gave her identification to the officer and who was moving on to talk to Coleman, Christian Coleman. Then she said, but yeah, you're a coward. Now turning to talk to her boyfriend, you're a fucking coward. I will never fuck with you again. When she was placed under arrest, she began yelling at him as officers put the handcuffs on him. You're under arrest for assault, one officer said to her. Richardson then denied assaulting him, and another officer said, we have video cameras. She continued saying, Christian, are you serious right now? Christian, I'm going to jail because of you right now? Richardson then asked if she could get bail from the officers, who told her that that would not be happening. Okay, then it says the Olympic gold medalist continued as she got put in the back of the police car, asking if she could take her handcuffs off because she's also denied the request, and began crying. My name is Sha'Carri Richardson. I don't have anything on me. Can you please take these off? I'm not a criminal. I had an argument with my boyfriend, she said. And then it said the surveillance footage shows that she shoved him multiple times, even once shoving him into a wall, and he continued to walk away. She apologized for the ugly incident. Yep, she's too ignorant to represent the United States of America. We need statesmen and stateswomen, not this. Now, not hood rats. That's a hood rat. You can't get through the airport without beating people up. What is your problem?
Yeah, this type of behavior reflects badly on the foundational Black American community, and I do feel for that sister and her. She needs to get some counseling, but Wani, unfortunately, you're right. She's representing us, and with the situation we're in right now, we don't need to give any fuel to all the various enemies we have out there to be thrown against us. But I want to bring up one more symptom that I didn't read that comes from a maternal abandonment: self-harm and substance abuse. It says, as adults, some individuals may resort to self-harm or substance abuse as a way to cope with the emotional pain and unprocessed trauma of abandonment. I'm all for Sister Sha'Carri. I want her to get another Olympic gold medal, but it may be a good idea for her to get some counseling and deal with that trauma.
I just question that apology, because how can you say, look what you did to me, after you beat him up and down the aisles? And then flip it and then say, oh, I'm sorry, I love you and blah, blah, blah. I don't know about all that.
Well, that makes perfect sense, because she one of the symptoms is not dealing with it's unprocessed trauma. She hasn't. I'm speculating. It seems as though she hasn't dealt with the trauma of abandonment, and she's developed a coping mechanism of flipping it on somebody else. What I'm starting to think is that grandmom, and that auntie knew about her personality traits and enrolled her in track to try to give her a what do you call it? Like an outlet. and it worked, but it's never going to fully work unless you deal with that unprocessed trauma.
And she has little girls looking up to her.
Right.
And she is not about her at this level. That's the part that's really not fair. It's not about her at this level.
Right. It's about us.
You know who? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying it's about our community.
It is about the FBA community, and again, accountability and the standards in our community. That's a part of our culture, is accountability. But I was thinking as we were talking, the Sha'Carri Richardson, without making it to the Olympics and whatever, the opposite of that, like if you want to see what the outcome of that is, Krishan Rock. Krishan Rock is another person who ran track, very pretty girl. Everybody looks athletic. Everybody looked at Krishan Rock and was like, why? How did Krishan get here? Like, Krishan Rock could have been a Sha'Carri Richardson. She ran track. I don't know what her, her stats were or whatever the case may be, but she also was another person who ran track. But again, that childhood that, Krishan talked about, and even some of their relatives have gotten on social media and talked about and things like that, you see how if Sha'Carri had not made it to where she is, she could have easily been a Krishan Rock, a person that through some other means could have possibly become known. But, your stuff can easily spiral out of control if it doesn't get in check, or people are enabling you, or whatever the case may be. We see this a lot with people, probably more common than we even think about. I think it's becoming so common, especially with a lot of these females being violent and aggressive. It's a lot of drug use amongst the younger generation. Like, me and my sister talk about the fact, like, our generation, the Zennials, it's a lot of drunks among Zennials, but not a lot of drug addicts. But this younger generation, people born 1986 and later, especially 1990s and later, 2000s, they're drug addicts and do not care that they're drug addicts. Don't care that they have missing teeth. Don't care that they can't cope. Like, the drugs ain't even helping them. They're a different breed. And I agree with Wani that the representation that we need, we didn't see this with Venus and Serena Williams. And that doesn't mean that they didn't have issues or didn't have problems or whatever. They were in the spotlight like other people, but it wasn't a whole bunch of stuff. Even when Serena was dating Drake and Common and this person and that person and whatever, yeah, it made a headline, but it wasn't the center of her brand. They established a brand. Sha'Carri hasn't even established a brand that we can get behind. Like, this is her brand. You're smoking weed. You apologize. We say we support the young sister. You go and you're domestically abusing somebody's son. You apologize. Well, we might support the young sister. Like, that should not be her brand. Her brand should be focused on track and field, as Wani said. So I'll yield the mic to the speakers with their hands up.
When you see how many championships Serena and Venus got, it was astronomical. And Sha'Carri did as well as some random broad in the Bahamas. She got one medal. She should have got way more. And she's riding on that, thinking that she's going to do something. She really has one more chance. If she does another thing like this, that's going to be the end of her, because she hasn't really shown that much in the Olympics. When it comes time, the Olympics in sports is about mental strength.
Yep.
And she's not showing it, because she flopped at the Olympics. She eked out one medal, but she's done more bullshit than medals she won at this point.
Yeah, and before we move to the speakers, I want to say one more thing about that. Given the fact that what you just presented, Wani, that she's not really, obviously she has a lot of talent. And just imagine how many medals she would have if she got that trauma under control. But my point is, she got a gold medal and she's not really putting forth her all.